Brittany, you'll be first up. How has NAIDOC Week been celebrated in your region?
So I believe, because I'm in Brisbane, but in Coffs Harbour, from what I've been following, everyone's participating in it's week-long event. And I believe the Land Council is running most of the events.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that there's a variety, mostly in person now, and there is still some things going on online and some live streams as well of cooking, which should be really awesome for me to do.
Yeah, no, that's good. Can you share a reflection or a thought on NAIDOC's 2020 theme? Always was, always will be?
Yeah, so I think it's just a really big reminder as well about what this land is and where it's come from too. I think sometimes it is easy to forget.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a big reflection about, I guess, the tragedies of the past and making sure that we still really stay in touch with, I guess, the traditional owners of the land.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just, I guess, what that really means to me. It's just a real reflection about where this has all come from, and that I need to really continue to pay my respects to the people that own this land.
Yeah. No,
and it's not us as white Australians.
Yeah. How would you think that would relate to our work?
So how this relates to our work? I think for our work in particular too, it's about always acknowledging the land that we're on, and just being, I guess, culturally sensitive and culturally aware too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not very today.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Elijah. How can NAIDOC?
For NAIDOC Week, it was about celebrating the area. My area is between Coffs and Lismore. I'm all over the shop up here. I'm up in Nimbin near Byron Bay. So there's some grommet fests going on in Byron Bay. There's some other activities. I remember, in the olden days, when Julie Leap was my boss before, we'd all go over to the celebrations, and a big celebration in the park in Lismore. And we'd be part of, and Interrelate was very much part of that, and there'd be guest speakers and all that. It's something I really enjoyed. So always have been, always will be. It actually astounds me, when we're thinking of Indigenous people being custodians of this land for 120,000 years. That's Australia. And we didn't know that Homo sapiens, according to Google, have been here 200,000 years. That's incredible that the Indigenous people, as the oldest surviving group of people, know how to work with this land and know how to work with the mother here. You call them mother. We're getting into really, really difficult environmental times where, whiteys in the last 200 years around the world, particularly post industrial revolution, have really screwed things up. So we really need to shut our mouths and open up our ears to First Nations people here, because deep within all of them is a knowing and understanding of how to connect deeply with this land and how to work properly with it. So in big respect to that, I think that we need to work very, very closely and forget our ideas and really learn from the people who actually know that's Indigenous people of Australia. So much respect to them, and my ears are fully open. So far as my work is concerned, I have to really go back and be careful in myself about my own socialisation. I'm in my 60s now. I was socialised very differently from somebody, say, 30 years ago in relation to Indigenous people, in relation to all sorts of things. So I've got to really be careful and be really honest with myself always about where I'm coming from with my clients, and be really sensitive to that, and learn from myself in relation to my biases. So yeah, much congratulations to Indigenous people for still being here after being tried to be wiped out for so long, and much respect to them as well, and happy NAIDOC Week.
Thanks. It's quite a unique country, isn't it, and culture.
Awesome. And the spirit here is so strong, you know, and Indigenous people knowing this and feeling this. They're very, very lucky.
All right, Heidi.
Oh, it's me.
You're up.
I'm next. Okay. So the thing that I've really enjoyed about working at Interrelate is the respect paid to the traditional custodians of the land on each country that we walk on. In particular around NAIDOC in the Coffs Harbour area and down into Nambucca and Barraville, we actively participate. And it was a decision that we discussed as a team about making sure that we were covering each of the NAIDOC, you know, that each person attended a NAIDOC event and were a part to be there to listen and to support. So traditionally in Barraville, we would set up in the local community, do craft with families and just have a circle to discuss the importance of the people that have tended this country very carefully. And I guess that leads into the motto of NAIDOC, because First Nation people have been tending this land carefully. So the land that we walk on, the air that we breathe, the trees that we walk between that keep us healthy and protect us are here for a reason, because a people for thousands of years have cared for it carefully so that we could be here in this spot. So I thank them, and I pay my respect to them for that. And I think in the work with Interrelate, it's really about pausing and listening. I think oftentimes in this sector, we are very well-meaning and we want to rush ahead and we want to fix the problems of the world, but we sometimes forget to stop, to listen, to hear the story and to hear the journey of each person. And so that's what I think we honor in the work we do at Interrelate. And that's how it ties into NAIDOC, is paying respect to people that have been very important to the history of this country, are critical to the history of the country. We wouldn't be here without them.
Definitely. Jessica?
Hi. Yeah, so I think, well, in terms of NAIDOC being celebrated, I think we've kind of discussed it this morning, but yeah, it being that real celebration of, in our local area, the Gumbaynggirr people, and yeah, bringing together of people in that celebration, which is a really beautiful thing to witness and be a part of. In terms of this year's motto for NAIDOC, I think for me it's that acknowledgement of, this truth that was denied by colonisation and has sadly been so with policy for, many years in the history of white Australia. And so, yeah, I think it's an opportunity to celebrate the resilience and, the diversity of these, cultures. And I think in terms of the work that we're doing at Interrelate, it's a really essential part of healing and, acknowledgement and, listening to the stories and I think, like what's been touched on this morning, that that real acknowledgement and pride in the connection to country and having that respect for that, because, without that, there's, there's nothing. And we're so lucky, we're so privileged to be here because of that. And I think that's an important part of, NAIDOC and celebrating, the resilience there that has led us to be here today. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Jess. Margot, did you want to go, or did you?
Yeah, look, I'll quickly say something.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things I love about NAIDOC Week is that it is a celebration of some of the wonderful things that certainly I've learned from the Aboriginal culture. And one of the things I love about it is it reminds us, I mean, with the bushfires and with all the land issues that have been around that, it's like going back to look at what the First Nation people have been doing with the land and how they manage it. And we're now learning their techniques, and those techniques we're paying attention to that. And I think it's great that finally white people are learning some things from the First Nation people and how they have looked after the land. And I think the connection to the land is so important. So that's something I find really, really important. I also am looking forward to the bush tucker cooking class, because I think that's something I would really like to learn. And just recognition of the resilience that is just so evident in there's been a lot of trauma for the First Nation people, and I think the resilience that the Aboriginal people have shown in continuing to celebrate their culture and relearn their languages and promote their language. And I think it's a great week. And I hope that, being new to Interrelate, that I can make sure that I'm incorporating those ideas in what I do.
Yeah, thank you. Philippa?
NAIDOC celebrations occur every year, and this time COVID has changed the nature of that. So we've become like it's a lot of virtual celebration this year, which is good. It's not the coming together of NAIDOC Week that we know. So it kind of looks a little different this year, but we're still able to do it, which is good. Always was, always will be brings words to mind rather than a whole scenario. So I think of permanency, and I think of continue the Aboriginal people have the oldest continual culture in the world. So I think of that, and I think of continuity, the solidness and spirit. I also feel that those words conjure up a calming in me, and I find that if we reflect on that in our workplace, then I can transport that to our workplace in terms of calming. We've heard today a lot of, words of respect, hearing people's stories, hearing people's journeys. So always was, always will be is a reflection as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Susan? Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Hey, I'm never muted. What's that about? I was talking to Heidi about this morning because it conjures up in me some amazing memories.
Yeah.
Always will, always was, always will be. I used to do a lot of work up in remote Cape York in communities.
Yeah.
And I remember one morning just waking up in the middle of Lakefield National Park. No one else was awake, and I was standing by the edge of a river, and it was calm, and there was peaceful, and there was birds, and the sun was just coming up, and the shadows were really long, and you just got it, the feeling there was so magical, and the culture and the emotions up in Cape York are so strong still. It's an amazing place to be, to live and work. And I think if a little white girl from the beaches in Sydney can go up into an area that is that gorgeous and just feel it,
yeah,
how strong is it? I think we can all feel it. It's amazing. And I think even at work and in our own personal lives, we all have a responsibility to keep the community connected. So I think we just have to keep doing what we're doing and keep being proud of our history and working towards, a brighter future.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Wendy?
Thanks, Jack. And firstly, Ginagay from Gumbangi country.
That's
So as well as the land council events that are on for the whole week, the Family Law Pathways nationally has organised a national webinar about the Chinchilla Boys Home. This will include a short film and interviews from survivors from the stolen generation that were taken to the Chinchilla Boys Home. And then after, we're having a live Q&A with those survivors. So very excited about that. As to always was, always will be, to me, this means that the Aboriginal people inhabited Australia prior to British colonisation. And Britain's claim that Australia was terra nullius, which justified the occupation and the dispossession of Aboriginal people, was a fiction. And as we all know, the Aboriginal people continuously inhabited this land, and this will never change. So this relates to my work by ensuring that Aboriginal people are included and heard from. And I've learnt a lot of things recently by doing that. I've learnt about Didiri, which is the Aboriginal mindfulness technique, which recognises the deep inner spring inside us and is all about stillness and awareness and listening.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my work to make sure that Aboriginal people are included and part of our network I've seen it come to fruition by organising my next event in December, where I'm noticing that I've got a lot of Aboriginal people that are now registering and being included. So that makes me very pleased.
Yeah. Nice, Wendy. That was really well said. Yeah, I think I'm so glad to hear how you know a lot about, like, within the culture. Like, a lot of people don't these days. It sort of gets pushed aside and not talked about. But I think it's really important because we have been here a long time and we will be here a long time after. So I just think that's very important to me. And that's what them words mean to me as well. Always was, always will be. We're quite connected to our land, and yeah, so in Gumbangi country, this, unfortunately, it's going to be really virtual, but we're doing our best as we can to get out and connect with the community as much as possible. And what I like, I'm honestly so proud to say that I work with Interrelate because you are so welcoming within culture. Just makes me really proud to get out there and say that I'm from this company, because it's just really important to have that connection with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, because we're so close to our land, and it's just good to connect with white people and us, because it's just, I feel like it's really important because we're on the same country, so we all need to join in together and respect each other's cultures, and yeah, I just think it's really important. And
That's really well said, Jack. Thank you for that. Would you like to finish off with Julie? Julie, lucky last?
Sorry.
Do you want to be lucky last?
Oh, did I miss you, Julie?
Okay, Jack.
That's okay, no problem.
Sorry.
Jack.
You're okay, Jack. It's a big list of people, Jack.
Sorry, I missed that. I didn't even.
So Dingiwala, which means welcome in Bundjalung language. So NAIDOC Day, NAIDOC Week is a really significant event for all Australians. So to celebrate the huge cultural knowledge that Aboriginal people have. And so normally NAIDOC Day in our region or across Australia is held in July, but because of COVID, it's been put off, and Interrelate have been involved in the 7 days of celebration for a very long time. So this year, unfortunately, we're going to do things a little bit differently, but that doesn't mean that the sentiment's going to be any different. So we're contributing to Jarjum's preschool up in Lismore, and there will be an event for the children. The children are the next generation of Aboriginal leaders, and I think it's really important that we support the Jarjums. There are also bush tucker projects which are coming, and I'm actually going to have a go at making wattle seed bread.
Ooh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah, saw a recipe for it, so I'll let you know how I go. So what, for me, NAIDOC Day means the recognition of Aboriginal culture, but I think about the Uluru Statement, and I think the statement from the heart. So what is at the heart of Australia? It is the Aboriginal culture. It is the way that the Aboriginal people have maintained the land, looked after the land, looked after the waterways, and had a law for their people, which was significant. So in terms of my role, for me, reconciliation is part and parcel of what we do every day. At the very least, we need to reconcile with our First Nations people, the meetings of people. So Australia is a huge multicultural land, and I think we need to put the Aboriginal culture front and centre. It is the oldest surviving culture in the world, and to me, I think if we keep that at the heart of everything we do, respect for each other, respect for Aboriginal people, respect for the land, then I think that's a great way forward.
Yeah, that's really good. It's definitely about the next generation is really important to me as well. The young kids coming up, teaching them the right way. It's very important for me. But thanks for that, everyone.
Well, thank you, Jack. Thanks, everyone. That was really interesting. I
That
enjoyed
was
that.
so good to hear all your thoughts.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jack.
That was amazing.